I found the messages at 2:17 a.m., my phone lighting up the ceiling like a confession I wasn't ready to hear. They weren't meant for me. I knew that before I even opened them. The words felt familiar in a way that made my stomach drop, like hearing your own voice played back from a place you've never been. He was apologizing. She was reassuring him. And my name was everywhere, used like a mask. That was the moment I understood something terrible had already happened, something I couldn't undo, something that would split my life into before and after. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just lay there, listening to my own breathing, realizing that the person who knew me best had learned how to disappear inside me. My twin sister had impersonated me and seduced my boyfriend, and the worst part was that it worked so well because she knew exactly how to be me. It didn't start with betrayal. It started with closeness, the kind people envy. Growing up, we were inseparable, two halves of a single reflection. Teachers mixed us up. Friends laughed when we finished each other's sentences. Our parents called us a miracle, and we learned early how to move through the world as a unit. But miracles have shadows, and ours followed us quietly into adulthood. By the time I met him, my life finally felt like it belonged to me. He wasn't perfect, but he was attentive in a way that felt rare, like he saw the small things I usually kept hidden. The way I twisted my rings when I was nervous. The way I went quiet when I was hurt. He learned my rhythms, my pauses, my tells. I thought that kind of intimacy was sacred. I didn't realize I was teaching someone else how to steal it. My sister was there from the beginning, smiling, supportive, almost too interested. She asked questions that sounded like care. What did he say when he was upset? How did he kiss me when no one was watching? What jokes made me laugh when I was trying not to? I answered without thinking, because she was my twin, because secrets between us had always felt unnecessary. Looking back, those conversations feel like rehearsals. The first crack appeared so subtly I convinced myself it was nothing. He started mentioning things I didn't remember saying. Jokes I didn't recall making. Opinions I was sure I'd never shared. When I questioned him, he'd laugh it off, telling me I was tired, that I'd forget my own head if it wasn't attached. I laughed too, because doubt is easier to swallow when it's coated in affection. But then came the distance. He pulled away in small increments, like someone easing out of a room without wanting to be noticed. His messages grew shorter. His eyes wandered when I spoke. When I asked what was wrong, he told me I was imagining things. That word echoed in my head, tapping against old insecurities I thought I'd outgrown. I started watching myself more closely, wondering if I really was changing without noticing. All the while, my sister grew warmer, more present. She texted me constantly, checking in, asking if I was okay. Sometimes she'd repeat my own words back to me, almost verbatim, and I'd feel a strange shiver of recognition. It felt like looking into a mirror that moved half a second too late. I wish I could tell you there was a single moment when everything made sense, but the truth is uglier. Understanding came in fragments, each one sharper than the last. A notification that popped up on my screen and vanished too quickly. A familiar nickname typed in a way only I used. A photo taken in my favorite cafe, at a table I'd never sat at with him. When I finally confronted him, I expected denial. What I didn't expect was confusion. Real, unguarded confusion that made my chest tighten. He told me we'd talked about this already. That I'd agreed to give him space. That I'd kissed him goodbye 2 nights ago and promised to call. Every word he spoke felt like a hidden truth being dragged into the light, and none of it belonged to me. I left before the conversation could finish, my thoughts racing faster than my feet could carry me. I went straight to her apartment, hands shaking as I knocked. She opened the door wearing my sweater. Not a similar one. Mine. The one I'd been looking for all week. The sight of it stole the air from my lungs. She didn't deny it. That might have been the cruelest part. She looked at me with a calm I didn't recognize and told me she hadn't meant for it to go this far. She said it started as a joke, a way to feel closer to my life, to understand what it was like to be chosen by someone like him. She said he responded so naturally that stopping felt impossible. Listening to her felt like watching someone describe a crime they didn't believe was real. She spoke about texts and calls, about late-night conversations where she became me so completely that even she forgot where the act ended. She talked about his hands, his voice, the way he said my name, and every detail carved itself into my memory like a scar. I wanted to hate her instantly, to sever the bond that had defined my entire existence. But hatred tangled with something darker and more confusing. If he couldn't tell the difference, what did that say about me? About us? About the love I thought was unique? The days that followed blurred together, heavy with unanswered questions. He reached out, desperate to explain, to apologize, to understand how he'd been deceived. My sister withdrew, her messages slowing, her presence fading like a ghost that had already done its damage. And I was left standing between them, holding a truth that felt too large to carry. I replayed every interaction in my head, searching for signs I'd missed. The nights he seemed distant. The mornings he was unusually affectionate. The moments when I felt replaced without knowing why. Each memory opened another loop of doubt, another possibility that twisted my understanding of the past. What haunted me most wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that my identity, something I'd spent my life trying to define outside of being a twin, had been used against me. My mannerisms, my vulnerabilities, my love had all become tools in someone else's forbidden relationship. The hidden truth was that I'd never been as separate as I believed. When I finally agreed to see him again, it wasn't for closure. It was for answers I wasn't sure I wanted. We sat across from each other, the space between us thick with unspoken pain. He told me he felt violated, ashamed, angry at himself for not noticing. His words were sincere, but they didn't mend what was broken. Trust doesn't shatter loudly. It erodes, grain by grain, until there's nothing solid left to stand on. I realized then that this story didn't have a clean villain or an easy resolution. It was a family secret that would follow us forever, a dark past woven into every future interaction. Loving him meant reliving the betrayal. Forgiving her meant redefining myself. Walking away meant accepting a loss I hadn't chosen. As I stood up to leave, I understood something that changed me more than the shocking discovery itself. Some betrayals don't end relationships. They end illusions. And once those are gone, you're forced to see yourself, and the people you love, without the comfort of who you thought they were. I thought continuing would bring relief, but it did the opposite. Once the truth was out, there was no going back to the version of my life where things were simple. Every interaction after that felt loaded, like walking through a house where you know something terrible happened in every room. I stopped speaking to my sister at first. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I had too many. Every memory of us growing up started replaying in a different light. The shared clothes. The shared secrets. The times she spoke for me, finished my sentences, corrected people when they misunderstood me. Back then, it felt protective. Now it felt like rehearsal for something darker. She tried to reach me, leaving messages that alternated between guilt and justification. She said she felt invisible her entire life, like I was always the one people chose first without realizing it. She said wearing my life for a while made her feel real. Hearing that twisted something inside me. I didn't know whether to feel sympathy or disgust. Maybe both were equally dangerous. Meanwhile, he kept insisting on meeting. He said he needed to see me, to remind himself who I really was. That sentence hurt more than anything else he could have said. It implied that even now, even after everything, the lines were still blurred. I agreed to meet him one last time, not because I believed in us, but because I needed to hear the rest of the story from his mouth. We met somewhere public, neutral, a place with too many people for emotions to spill freely. He looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept since the betrayal came into focus. He told me things I hadn't known. That she'd sometimes cancel plans suddenly, saying she wasn't feeling like herself. That she'd avoid video calls, claiming bad lighting or a headache. That when they finally met in person, she'd always choose dim places, crowded spaces, moments where doubt could be brushed aside. And then came the part that still makes my chest tighten. He admitted that there were moments when he sensed something was off. Tiny differences. A laugh that lasted a beat too long. A look that didn't quite land the same way. But instead of questioning it, he ignored it. Because questioning it meant questioning me. And he wasn't ready to do that. That was the betrayal within the betrayal. The choice to stay comfortable instead of seeking the hidden truth. After that meeting, I cut contact with him completely. There was no dramatic goodbye, no final argument. Just silence. The kind that echoes. Ending things with him felt like losing a future I'd already imagined, but staying would have meant living in constant comparison with my own reflection. I couldn't compete with someone who knew my every move before I made it. My sister eventually showed up at my door. I hadn't told her where I was staying, which meant she'd gone looking. When I opened the door, I barely recognized her. She looked smaller somehow, stripped of the confidence she'd worn while pretending to be me. She started crying before she could say anything, and for a moment, instinct kicked in. The old instinct. The one that wanted to protect her. But I didn't let her in right away. She told me everything. Not just about him, but about the years of resentment she'd buried under closeness. How she measured herself against me in every relationship, every compliment, every choice. How impersonating me hadn't started with desire for him, but with curiosity. What would it feel like if someone loved me without knowing it was me? When she realized he couldn't tell, something in her broke open. She said she hated herself for it now. That the guilt was unbearable. That she didn't expect forgiveness, only acknowledgement of how lost she'd been. Listening to her felt like standing at the edge of a deep well, hearing my own voice come back distorted. I saw her pain, but I also saw the damage. And love doesn't erase consequences. I told her I needed distance. Not forever, but long enough to remember who I was without her shadow pressed against mine. She nodded, like she'd expected it. When she left, the silence that followed felt earned. Time didn't heal everything, but it changed the weight of things. Weeks turned into months. I stopped checking my phone compulsively. I stopped wondering if every stranger saw me as interchangeable. Slowly, I began reclaiming parts of myself I didn't realize I'd given away. My routines. My opinions. My solitude. There were nights, though, when doubt crept back in. When I wondered if I'd ever trust someone fully again. If intimacy would always feel like a performance waiting to be copied. Betrayal does that. It doesn't just break trust in others. It fractures trust in yourself. The final conversation with my sister came unexpectedly. She asked to meet, just the two of us. No apologies, no explanations. Just honesty. We walked through a park we used to visit as kids, the air heavy with things unsaid. She told me she was starting therapy, that she was trying to understand why she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She said she knew that might never come. That was when I realized something quietly powerful. Forgiveness isn't always about letting someone back in. Sometimes it's about releasing yourself from carrying their choices forever. I told her I wasn't ready to forgive her yet, but I wasn't carrying hatred anymore. That would have tied me to the worst version of us. We parted without promises. Today, when I think about what happened, it still feels surreal. A forbidden relationship built on my identity. A shocking discovery that rewrote my past. A family secret that forced me to grow in ways I never wanted. But it also taught me something uncomfortable and necessary. Being seen isn't just about being loved. It's about being recognized for who you are, not who someone wants you to be. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you question trust, identity, or the people closest to you, stay here. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this don't end when the video stops. They live on in the conversations we're brave enough to have.